into that as usual. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it if you can. And for those of you that are listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, please follow, give us a 5-star review if you can. It really helps with the algorithms. But anyway, let's move on now to the Arsenal-Nottingham Forest game. It's obviously been a pretty poor couple of weeks for Arsenal. Not a couple of weeks, many weeks for Arsenal. And I've been pretty down on this pod as a result of that. But we will get into what I think is a slightly lighter topic, a happier topic of Arsenal beating Nottingham Forest 3-0 at home. We'll just recap slightly. Obviously, we came out of the blocks really, really well. I'll talk briefly just on who we started. So you saw a midfield of Jorginho, Marino, and Odegaard starting with, I believe, Trossard off the left, Gabby Jesus up front, and obviously Saka in the right, with Jurriën Timber at right back, Calafiori at left back, and no change to the goalkeeper or centre backs. So to start off, I mean, you saw me in the group chat. I was thinking, what the hell are we doing putting Gabby Jesus up front? I didn't even know that my man was fit. Like he is our version of Tyrell Malacia, essentially. Like I don't know if my man's alive, dead, injured, fit. I don't know what's going on with him. I love him, but I'm never certain. And as a result, I never really can bank on his match fitness. And he's had a couple of cameos where he's come on and just not really looked all that inspiring. So I was very worried about that. And then obviously Marino, Jorginho, Odegaard starting three in midfield did not excite me all that much, just because I felt like there's no enforcer in that midfield. So I was wondering, like, obviously Rice has got like a broken toe and whatever else, but like, where is the pace going to come from? Where is the ability to overwhelm other teams going to come from? But anyway, we started really well. We got a goal, an early disallowed goal, Timber offside, I believe. And then we just kind of kicked on from there. I think Nottingham Forest had like a couple of little opportunities here and there, but we were really dominating a lot of the ball, a lot of the chances really. And it culminated really in a what I'm going to call a classic kind of Saka Odegaard link up, right? So Saka gets the ball down off of like a kind of an aerial ball. He's got an unbelievable knack of just like keeping control of something that looks like it's completely out of control. Even like a little bit like Suarez previously, right? Like I don't know how, but he sometimes like toes it, shins it, and it's still in his possession, which is really strange. But he manages to keep it, flick it over to Odegaard, who I don't know what my man's doing, but he just does like a no-look kind of outside of the foot pass back to Saka. Saka runs around a couple of people. I think he's overdone it a little bit, and he ends up slapping it not into the top corner, but just across the goalkeeper, I think, where the goalkeeper was not expecting it to go. So that's 1-0. Very, very happy to see that. Sells gets challenged a lot more. Trossard, Odegaard, we have a couple of other good chances. We end up going into half-time with 1-0. And then, second half, we just came out of the blocks really well again. The Saka-Odegaard link-up again happening. Saka has the ball out on the right-hand side. Odegaard, nice little undercut or whatever they call it, manages to take a defender away, leave a big gap for Partey, who just slaps it into across the goalkeeper again, kind of like an outswinger, really. Curls it into the top left corner, and it ends up being 2-0. Not a lot of fans really want to talk about that goal or who scored it, so we'll leave that one alone. But then after that, we started to take our foot off the pedal a little bit. I don't know whether this was necessarily just because a couple of the players in the team aren't like super match fit. Maybe that contributed to it, or we just got a little bit complacent, which Arsenal definitely have done previously before. And they start to get a little bit back into the game, right? They have a couple of decent chances. They get some set pieces where obviously we expect to be pretty strong, but without the Rice in there, without some of the players that we'd expect are a bit more kind of pace and power in there, we worry about those set pieces. But luckily they don't come to anything. Then lastly, just to wrap up, Nwaneri comes off the bench and he ends up scoring a great finish. He really stays alert and manages to get one, I think, to the near post past Sells, and he makes it 3-0 to the Arsenal. So overall, I'll just start it off. I thought it was a great game from us. It is definitely the antidote to what we've been seeing previously, which is just low-scoring games, almost blunt in attack previously. It's a massive change to that, right? And I think Odegaard is really critical to that. But I'm also going to give a shout out to Jorginho too. I thought Jorginho he's underrated for us. I think, right, like I've moaned about him a lot, mainly in the 22-23 season where I thought he was just not really going to do anything for us. But he's really a dictator of tempo. And I think, without him there, without Odegaard there, we really lack something in terms of on the ball kind of control and dictating tempo. So to have both of them back was mental. I felt like we were so much better on the ball. We were so much better in attack. We managed to break people down. We managed to get balls into the right area of the pitch. And then obviously, again, the Odegaard Saka link up is critical, right? And I showed you the heat map for Odegaard previously, right? And he spends a lot of time next to Saka. Some people say it's detrimental to Saka, but in my opinion, especially when we're playing against a lot of teams now that double and triple team Saka, it's really critical that you have another threat around him, right? And without Ben White there to do the overlapping to try and take a defender away, we need somebody to be helping him. And I think that's something that Odegaard really does. He managed to take defenders away, give Saka a bit of time and space, and they managed to get their 1-2s and really kind of offer up a bunch of opportunities for Saka to put away. And one of the things that Saka really is getting better at and has been getting better at over the last couple of years is being clinical. And I think now if you get him chances in the right positions, he more often than not, he's going to score or at least get the ball on target, right? And test the goalkeeper. So that was a massive change for me. On top of that, I thought Gabby Jesus looked good, man. I don't, I can admit when I'm wrong. And I honestly thought, having Havertz up there, I've become kind of used to it now. But to have that extra dimension, again, I've said it before, I want us to be able to play different styles. And Gabby Jesus definitely offers something very different to Kai Havertz, right? In terms of energy, in terms of closing down, in terms of on the ball, dribbling ability, etc., etc. So it really was nice to see him back as well. So I'm quite happy with him too. And then obviously Leandro Trossard, back to where he should be playing, right? I don't want to see him in the 10 again. I've said it many times. In the 10, he's a 3, but left wing, up front, right wing, I'm happy with him. He's an 8 out of 10 most games. So let's keep him there. Don't put him back into the cam position because Arsenal fans will start to beef him, right? And we know that Arsenal fans, myself included, can jump on the back of players really quickly, right? So keep him out of the positions where he's going to stink it up because otherwise Arsenal fans will start to jump on his back and then we get the confidence issues. We get issues with him, not being wanted or not feeling valued in the team. So Arteta, it's on you, mate. Stop playing him where he stinks. Keep him on the left wing as an option for Martinelli when Martinelli's not firing. So yeah, overall, very happy with the game. But Anthony, how did you see it, mate? Did you think the same thing in terms of Arsenal's play? Did you think we looked a lot better now with Odegaard back?
Yeah, no. So the two questions we had on the docket was around the two things you discussed, right? I think agree with you completely. Odegaard back in your attack or in your midfield just changes the whole face of everything. Everything knits together better. You see a lot more, little triangles and little patterns of play, which are a lot more fluid. The ball moves quicker. Things are a lot of 1-2 touch football between him and Saka and whoever's in the little triangle that he's playing in, and everything just moves together. He's the glue that brings all of your attack together, and it's honestly night and day. No Odegaard and Odegaard in that position is you're two different teams in attack anyway. I don't want to say defense or whatever because your defense generally stays pretty stable regardless of if Odegaard's there or not. But as an attacking unit, you're just not the same. You're completely different. So, yeah, it's a huge difference having him in the team. And God, he's come back, and it's really important to get him back because some people think the title's gone already. I'd say it's you put yourself really close on the brink. So him coming back now and pretty much picking up where he left off is really, really, well timed from your perspective. So yeah, Odegaard, man. I saw some funny stuff from different content creators comparing Odegaard to some other creative players in years gone by, and I do think there's a little bit of disrespect on Odegaard's name in terms of how important he is to your team. A lot of people discuss him and say he's going to be the heir apparent to De Bruyne, and I don't really know. I don't know about that because I think people are putting De Bruyne in like all time categories. So that's a really high bar. But what I will say is he is the same level of importance to your team as De Bruyne was prime time when he was in his best heyday, right? Like everything goes through Odegaard. Saka, I saw someone also describe Arsenal as Saka and set pieces without Odegaard. Like that's the way that you guys are going to be able to win games. But as soon as Odegaard comes in, it's just a totally different situation. Like you saw Jesus start bouncing the ball around. You saw Trossard looks totally different because what one thing you did say about Trossard, and I kind of agree, but at the same time, I also kind of agree with Arsenal fans. I feel like it was right to get on his back. He was poor. It didn't matter where he was playing when Odegaard wasn't around. 10, up front, false 9, left wing. He just wasn't performing, right? And it almost now looks like he was. I don't know if it's by design. If Arteta said to him, you need to create and you need to do this when Odegaard's not around. But it looked like he felt like he had to put you guys on his back, and he's not that guy. Right, Trossard is not Odegaard. He's a very good player, and he comes up with big goals, and he's a great finisher. But he's not an Odegaard, right? So I think he was doing too much, and you saw that a lot when Odegaard was out. It, visibly looked like he was just trying to, he's taking pot shots, trying to do 45-yard pingers and all that stuff. It's like, no, no, Leandro, stick with what you're really good at, which is little intricate play and finishing, chances, which you're really good at, and you can be effective. So I feel like the Arsenal fans were right to get on his back. But one thing you do see is now even Trossard plays much better when Odegaard's there, and he's bouncing the ball off him and playing with him. So Odegaard is he's so deeply connected in that attack that like you see it now even more. Like I know he's been out for a few games in the past, but this is the longest period I think you guys have had with him out. This like 6-8 weeks or whatever it's been. And my God, do you now realize how important, even more so than before he is to your attack? Because I would say this was your best performance of the season so far. Because Forest are a good team, man. They're really hard to break down, and a lot of teams have struggled with them. Just ask Arnie Slot, right? Like that game was a totally deserved victory for Forest at Anfield, right? But you guys absolutely from the first whistle like suffocated the living hell out of them. And I can't remember a chance they had. You're being a little bit kind to Forest. I know there was a Jota last minute that got disallowed, and there was some set pieces and stuff, but there was not one moment where it felt like they were going to score. And I don't remember Raya doing diddly squat. So you absolutely you just overwhelmed the hell out of them, and it was totally deserved 3-0, man. I was livid at the end because I got so close to a correct score for my predictions and I desperately needed it. And bloody Wanyeri came in and tapped it home in the like bloody 85th plus minute. But you deserved it, man. It was a really good performance. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be cautiously optimistic now because it's still an uphill struggle with kind of the disappointing results you've had in the last month and a half or so. But if this is any sign of what's to come, as long as you keep those attackers fit, I think you're onto something. I do want to also give a massive shout out to who I've mocked in terms of aura and his name and all that kind of stuff. Calafiori was very good at left back. I thought he was really, really good. And when you have Timber playing in the team, who we've discussed like off cam and like outside of the pod, as being a really functional, very good defensive player, but not offering that much going forward. Having Calafiori on the other side, the same with Ben White when he's in his pomp when he's fit on the right hand side when they swap over, they're really good going forward, bro. Like Calafiori was bombing forward, overlapping. He was playing balls through the lines. I was really impressed with him, man, and I think he's going to end up being a really good signing for you guys as long as he can keep fit. That's the only dodgy thing about him, unfortunately. He's got like he picks up niggles and stuff like that. But I was really impressed with him, and I don't see too many people chatting about Calafiori. I thought he was really good. So I don't know what you made of that.
Yeah, no, I'll start out just saying, like, I mean, the question of was it our best performance of the season? I think in the Premier League, yes. I am going to still put our 2-0 win over PSG up there with like the best of overall this season. But I think they're close, and that's just really down to the quality of opposition. Because in the PSG game, they also had quite a few chances that they probably could have came out of that game with maybe a better result. But obviously, 2-0 against PSG to me is it's not something I see Arsenal do very often. So especially the Arsenal of old. So I will put it up there as our best performance so far in the season, and that's just really, in the Premier League at least, and that's really just because we've been poor in the Premier League, man. Like, we got wins against Aston Villa, sure, but we didn't really necessarily deserve it, which was the big funny thing, right? Draw against Liverpool, wins against Southampton, and stuff like that. But I've not really been too enthused about what I've seen from the Arsenal team in terms of actual performance, right? I've been relatively happy with the start in terms of results, but the performances weren't up to scratch. And this one, I think, was the first I've seen that was more in the pattern of what we did last year. And damn straight, because we bloody needed it, right? In terms of where we are in the league, in terms of where the general sentiment is about the team, we needed a win, and we needed a big one. So I'm really happy to see that, especially against Nottingham Forest, who are kind of the darlings, let's say, of this first few game weeks of the new season. Really, like, they've come out and been really, really good. They've upset teams. They've played really well, defended especially very, very well, and not really conceded. And then they've obviously had some really good performances from their kind of front three as well. So overall, to get a win against them, I think if you just look at the name, maybe you don't think it's all that good. But based off of how they've been defending, it's the first time I think that they've let 3 goals in this season, or maybe the second time. So it's not easy to put 3 goals past them. And there was also, I've got to say one more thing really is, we see a lot of stuff online about the Arsenal team and, Arteta and all these different conversations happening on YouTube and on Twitter and etc. But you could see in the stadium, and I've heard it from now a couple of fans that were there, just saying, like, no one here is questioning anything about Arteta. It's only you bellends online that are talking about this and talking about that, right? We're still happy as Larry. He's still done an amazing job for us, and we're not just going to turn our backs on people. So it's just important to get that kind of like sobering perspective every now and then when you see all these bloody Arsenal stands or like Arsenal fans on bloody Twitter talking rubbish about, oh, if Arteta doesn't get a major trophy this year, he's got to go. And I'm thinking, you shouldn't be allowed to speak, let alone bloody talk about football, right? Like, you should have to get permission to speak, because you talk out your ass most of the time. But yeah, I mean, on the point about Calafiori, he looks really good, man. I'm really happy with him, and it kind of loads me to say this, because I really don't like signings off the back of international tournaments. For the most part, they absolutely stink, and I think you saw that in Enzo Fernandez's performances for the last however long since he went to Chelsea, right? He's been rubbish. Even though in this recent game he was actually decent, but other than that, he's been pretty rubbish. So that I'm not a big fan of these kinds of signings, especially off the back of like one international tournament. But I've got to say, he's looking good, and I'm optimistic about him, especially because that left back position has given me so much heartache over the last couple of years, with bloody having to rely on Zinchenko and then Tierney being injured all the time and never really getting a chance. It's been such a position of angst for me. And now we've got bloody Zinchenko coming out and trying to give away all of Arteta's secrets. So I think we need to cut my man off immediately, and we need him under NDA. Do not talk ever again. Go somewhere else and be quiet, right? Because my man's just trying to give the game away. Chatty Patty. What is his autobiography even going to be about? Like, dancing on TikTok with some little kid or crying on a pitch? Like, get this man away from the pen. But yeah, no, Calafiori looks good. I'm happy about it. If he can stay fit, as you say, I'm going to be really happy, because we've, the other good left back option that I thought we had was always like Tomiyasu. But he's never he's another one of our Malassias. We've got many Malassias, and he's another one. I don't know where he is. Like, honestly, we need to have
back, mate. Don't do you remember?
Was it
find? He's on the bench.
Was it Find Coney 2012? I need to find Tomiyasu 2024. Where is my man? He's dyeing his hair more than he's played games for Arsenal. Right? He's had more hair colours than games.
Wait, don't start Souness. Don't start Sounessing. Don't get into the dyeing hair, all right? All right, Jonty Souness, chill out, all right? You're right on Zinchenko. Zinchenko stinks. And I've been warning you for bloody ever about Zinchenko. You used to do your little defensive Arsenal
Because
fight.
you put him in the category of
now,
Trent Alexander-Arnold defending.
I would
And at
argue
that time,
Trent's. I would argue Trent.
he was way better than Trent at defending specifically.
No, I would argue Trent's a much better defender than Zinchenko.
He is now, yes. Now in the light of day, that looks like a better shout. But back in the day, it was all right. I had precedent.
No, mate, I'm a visionary. You just don't want to see. You don't want to see it, mate. You don't want to see it. With Zinchenko, I'm right, man. With other teams, I'm generally like I stink, and I can be biased with United, of course. But for you guys, I feel like I've always been pretty fair and tried to see things like, openly with my eyes about what's going on. And Zinchenko reeks, and it's very, very much a blessing that you've got Calafiori. Like you said, as long as you can keep him fit, if you can get Timber, you can get White back afterwards, and somehow manage to get Tomiyasu, get sent to Pep's secret doctor or something and get him back to fitness, then those four are really good options. Exactly, because all four of them can play centre back. All four of them can play both left and right back. That's great cover, man. You just cut your losses with Zinchenko. If you started doing this, Piers Morgan-esque interviews and stuff like that, you need to get him out of it. That's when someone's finished. No, man. I think, Calafiori. I think he looks like a really good player, man. So I think
he just reminds me of a left-sided Ben White. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something about him that's just very. Yeah. He's better on the ball, though. I feel like he's slightly better on the ball, but slightly worse defending wise.
That's harsh on White.
No, I know, but I mean, I think White in terms of his dribbling is really good, but I mean, in terms of like the line breaking passes, I think that wasn't necessarily in White's bag. White was better at like crossing balls into the box, and I think the overlap around the outside of Saka was really, really good. But with Calafiori, I started to see like maybe a lot across the ground, his passing seems to be a little bit better, but defensively he does lack a little bit in comparison to White. I think White was more of a lockdown defender than Calafiori's been so far, but obviously he's getting used to English football and the speed of it. And he's obviously come up against some pretty good players so far. So we'll see about him. I'm hoping that we can keep him fit, and then the jury will be out. I don't want to go too soon on him because I know you've got a pet peeve about Arsenal going too soon on defenders. So we'll leave that one there.